Expertise, and I'm Angela, and this is November! So it's time for NaNoWriMo, the National Novel Writing Month. Each year, hundreds of thousands of writers at all levels of their craft commit to write at least 50,000 words in 1 month, basically the length of a literary novel. Since NaNoWriMo is all about stimulating creativity and getting people creating, we've asked a couple participants to sit down and talk about their goals and experiences with this now international event. Our next guest is JF Dubeau, here for his third time. The author of the sci-fi novel Life Engineered and the supernatural horror novel A God in the Shed. He's also the writer of the new storytelling podcast Achewillow. Welcome.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah. So how long have you been participating in NaNoWriMo?
I started NaNoWriMo in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first time I was on this show, I explained how NaNoWriMo is how I got into writing long-form fiction in the first place.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been doing it pretty much ever since. On and off, doing some of the camps once in a while, but mostly focusing on the main event.
How did you get started participating?
I've always wanted to write long form fiction. Like everybody wants to write a novel.
Mm-hmm.
I've wanted to write a novel. I've tried my hand at doing webcomics and doing like short stories, but I've always wanted to I want to write a novel. And one day in 2007, the adolescence of the internet, I would say, I was just browsing for how to write a novel, how to go about it, because I've had a lot of starts and failures. And it was, I don't know, maybe beginning of October, and some posts were showing up, like some of my search results were, NaNoWriMo's coming. It's like, what is that? And I researched and I said, you know what? I'll give it a shot. What's the worst that could happen? 50,000 words looks super intimidating, or it did back then.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'll give it a shot. Like, I mean, if I can't with this format write my novel, then I'll just give up and I'll go back to doing like web comics or whatever.
So what are you writing for NaNoWriMo this year?
This year, I am finishing up all the chapters for Achewillow. Before we started Achewillow, we wrote a bank of episodes.
Yeah.
We did very thorough outlining, so we knew where we were going. But before we went too far into, like, I didn't want to write everything and then start getting my narrator to start recording, because I knew that the way she would read might influence how I wanted to write.
Yeah.
And it did. It absolutely did. It was just the best thing ever. But I knew NaNoWriMo was coming. I knew I would start seeing the episodes a little before NaNoWriMo so I could get a bearing. So I kept 60,000 words of Achewillow to write specifically as my gift to me for NaNoWriMo.
Oh. So what's your word count goal?
60,000. Basically just finishing the balance of it. Although I might tack on another 5,000 because we've been noodling around with the idea. And I'm probably speaking out of line by saying this now, but we were talking about having a Christmas special for the holidays.
Oh.
Because the setting and the mood, even though it's sort of cozy horror, it still fits with the idea of having this kind of Doctor Who stepping out of the main storyline to tell a weird offbeat Christmas story.
That makes sense.
So we want to do that. So
plus your story is a lot about food. Food is a big thing about Christmas.
Yes, exactly. Because the story is written for Amy. It's basically I want a narrator that wasn't just going to read the story, but one was going to be involved in the development, be very excited, and the more emotionally invested they are, the better they're reading, and it shows. It really shows. And Amy's big thing is that she is an amazing cook and baker. She makes her own marshmallows. It's just like, so there's a certain magic to how she approaches cooking that I'm using in Achewillow, and there's a certain horror in how I write that I'm also using in Achewillow. So it makes for a very strange brew that I'm enjoying writing a lot.
That's pretty cool. So have you met your goals in previous years?
Always.
Always.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not very stubborn, but I'm very competitive with myself.
Yeah.
So if I reached the goal the first year, I don't see how I could not reach it subsequent years.
Right.
No matter what. There's a year I even doubled the goal just to see if I could. And I mean, this sounds a lot like bragging. I really apologize if that's the direction to take, but it's not. The reason I'm mentioning that is mostly because as you write more, you get better at understanding where you slow down and where you can accelerate, and you just get better. It's a skill. I think we've talked about that. Writing is a skill. The more you do it, the more you research it, the better you get at it. I've been doing this for, I think you said 12 years?
Yeah.
2007, yeah. So in over a decade of doing a thing, you're going to get better, so you can challenge yourself to do more, which is what I try to do here and there.
Yeah. So what appeals to you about NaNoWriMo? Other than that sort of that challenge, you know?
Honestly, at this point, I feel like I owe NaNoWriMo. Because NaNoWriMo got me started. Some of the stuff that I've written, well, actually everything that I've published so far started as an early first draft in NaNoWriMo.
Oh yeah.
NaNoWriMo is, to me, a good laboratory in which to sort of test out first drafts and then work them into something more publishable. Yeah. So I don't have like an exploding career in writing, but I am way further in this publishing universe than I ever thought I would get. Mostly because I'm twice as far with 2 books published, where I barely hope to maybe one day self-publish a book. So as much as I still like using NaNoWriMo as this laboratory, this sort of testing grounds for ideas, I kind of, if I'm not editing, I'll still be writing about 1,500 words a day anyway.
Right.
So NaNoWriMo as a set date isn't as important for my writing as it used to be.
Yeah. But
I do feel a certain, I don't want to say responsibility, but I like to have a certain level of involvement under NaNoWriMo, because this is where I cut my teeth on writing. There's a community in Montreal that is starting to get some momentum after years of really being next to nothing.
Yeah.
So I've seen NaNoWriMo, how it is in other cities, and it is such an exciting, bustling event, and I feel that Montreal doesn't have that yet, but deserves it.
Yeah.
And now we have the proper MLs to do it. Like Scarlett is she's very proactive. She communicates a lot with people. So she's really taking the steps to push it forward. I'm not much of a community organizer myself, mostly because I don't have time, and I am much better at keeping and moderating online communities, because I have the lack of empathy necessary to kick problematic elements out of communities.
Right.
So I'm comfortable hanging out and managing the Montreal Facebook page for NaNoWriMo.
Yeah.
And being as present as possible at events. I'm trying to make myself as available to help out, but it's mostly because I want to see this community grow. And right now, fellow NaNoWriMo participant from Montreal, Chris Huang, also has a published novel. So it's not just that NaNoWriMo Montreal is near and dear to me, but I also see the potential of it as being an incubator. Montreal as a city is super creative. We have a rich and powerful artistic drive here. So, and NaNoWriMo is good, like it's fertile ground for authors to develop. So I want to be part of that when it's happening.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm going on from that. What community events are there in Montreal?
Right now, there's mostly write-ins. There's usually a sort of start party and end party. The write-ins are getting more numerous. Our Go Bookshop has been involving themselves in NaNoWriMo a lot more in the past few years also. We've never really had this one spot that we could always go.
Yeah.
NaNoWriMo could bounce around like, oh, let's meet at this coffee shop or meet at that coffee shop, or we can go to this library for this one event. But it was very nomadic.
Yeah.
Argo isn't necessarily the perfect place to have huge meetings, but because they have these weekly write-ins, it allows for people to have at least this one spot that is clearly dedicated to books and reading and literature, where we can go and feel that there's at least this home base. So we've got these write-ins. There's other write-ins that people are doing impromptu. Some are doing them at their place. Very brave. There's also a lot of people that are just having write-ins, like say, hey, let's go to this cafe at this one date. And I invite anybody that's on the Montreal NaNoWriMo Facebook page, if you want to write somewhere, just post it and have people join you, because it is very motivating to write with other people. So, well, for example, just, I don't know when this is going out, but usually on Wednesday evenings, even outside of NaNoWriMo, I come here to La Graine Brûlée on St. Catherine, and I do write-ins like on Wednesday evenings. So anybody is always welcome to join me. I'm usually alone. That's not true. Like, usually like one or two people, but they're my usuals. Yeah. Okay. But I mean, we could be more, so by all means. So yeah, it's mostly for now sort of a hodgepodge of these write-ins plus the two NCAP events. Right. What I would like to see in the future is some of the more flagship events that we see for NaNoWriMo. There's an event called the Night of Writing Dangerously, which is basically an all-night writing event. I would love to see things of that like nature sort of start popping up for NaNoWriMo. San Francisco for a while had like some of the coolest calendar of events for NaNoWriMo. And I'd love to borrow from these. I remember years ago, I think my third year for NaNoWriMo, I went to Boston. I believe they were trying to do something similar and didn't really pan out. So I drove for nothing. Oh. Well, not nothing, but yeah. I mean, it was a great event for meeting the handful of people that were there. But the people were really cool. So that being said, yeah, I would just like to see more because, like I said, Montreal. I mean, we're Montreal. Yeah. We should be like on top of this.
We should be able to do it in both languages.
Absolutely, bilingualism is a superpower. Talk to anyone who only speaks one language about being able to speak two, and it's something to be extremely proud of. We should be absolutely leveraging that here in Montreal.
All right. So, how do you personally stay motivated? What kind of routine do you use to ensure you're writing every day?
I cheat because I absolutely love writing. Writing is my safe space. Writing is where I have fun and where I relax. Some people meditate, I write. Some people need to they watch television to escape, I write. Yeah. So it feels like such a cop-out because I know it's not like that easy for everybody. I wish it were. And I mean, it's not always 100% that easy. Like sometimes I have a story and I'm at this point, it's really hard to sort of figure out. So, but there's a certain joy to finding solutions in writing that make the hardship worth it. So either I'm relaxing while I'm writing or I'm trying to beat a problem that I know that once I beat it, will get me back to where I can relax while writing, and also give me such a level of satisfaction that it makes the hardship, worth it. So I think the way I get motivated is just going back to those moments of those little micro successes. If I'm unmotivated, I just have to say, all right, yeah, but you've been there before, and last time you were there, this happened, and it was worth it, so just sit down and do it. Right. And it usually works. I also have some other tiny little tricks to make sure that it's easy to get back into writing. I try to never finish at the end of a chapter. I try to leave myself little cliffhangers. Yeah. Always keep myself hungry. So if I'm writing and I reach a word count, I say, I could finish this chapter. I only have 100 or so words. Or I could just stop now, give myself a little note of what comes next so I don't forget it, but leave hungry. So next time I sit down, it's I was about to write this scene, and that scene looks awesome. So even before I sit down at the keyboard, I know what I'm going to do, so I'm not going to waste time. And I'm excited to do it because I kept myself excited. Right. And also, during the period between the two writing sessions, I was thinking about it. So I could work out some bugs and just think forward. So it really helps.
Do you do anything different during NaNoWriMo than you do in your normal writing career?
No.
You literally, you just apply, your routine of NaNoWriMo to the rest the rest of the year?
No, exactly. The only thing I will do different is because it's NaNoWriMo, I try to clear my schedule a bit and make sure that whatever project I'm going to start for NaNoWriMo, I start on NaNoWriMo. So if I have other projects, I try to finish them in advance. I try to know what I'm going to be doing for NaNoWriMo and do all my prep that goes before that. I'm a big prepper, so I like knowing what my steps are going to be.
Yeah.
So, like this year, I knew I wanted to write for Achewillow, so I kept myself enough of Achewillow to fill NaNoWriMo with, and made sure that what I knew about my plotting was still applicable to the rest.
Right.
So that on November 1st at midnight at a whatever 24-hour cafe I find, I can hit the ground running.
That's good. All right, so do you have any more advice for anyone wanting to participate in NaNoWriMo?
I would say that you need to. It's so weird because giving advice for NaNoWriMo, because everybody's so different.
Yeah.
I would say to anybody that likes to prepare as much as possible, so that you can just focus on writing during NaNoWriMo and you don't have to stop every chapter to replot.
Right.
But a lot of people just like to improv and just like they like to do what we call pantsing, going by the seat of their pants.
Yeah, it's the pantser and gardener sort of.
Yeah, which is one of these odd internet dichotomies where that doesn't allow for any room in the middle, which is dumb. But like I said, I can't give that advice to someone who just wants to improv. So I guess the best advice I could give is lifestyle advices. Like, make sure that your friends know that you're going to be doing NaNoWriMo, not so that they can't invite you to things, but that if you say no, I'm writing, it doesn't come as a surprise. It doesn't seem weird. Try to make sure that you don't have any big responsibilities for November. We as Canadians are lucky because we don't have Thanksgiving right in the middle.
It's true.
So that's one thing that saves us compared to our American friends. Try to make sure that, like I said, don't have any obligations. Try to clear your calendar as much as possible, and try to get into the communities, and not just superficially. Again, people who've done NaNoWriMo a few times, they know the value of writing as a group, and it sounds weird from the outset. Oh, but writing is such a solitary thing. Like, I have this image of the solitary writer at this cabin near a lake, drinking whiskey, writing, contemplating suicide. Whatever weird, dumb Hemingway stereotypes we have about writing don't necessarily always apply, especially not if you're just writing your first book. Also, you're writing your first book. If your first NaNoWriMo, I assume it's the first time you're doing this, it's going to be garbage. I hate to put it that way, but it's meant to be garbage. Your first somersault, you're going to land on your ass. The first time you paint scenery is going to look like garbage. No one's good at anything on their first shot.
Right.
Writing is a skill. If your first novel is not your worst, something's terribly wrong. You're not doing it right. And by that I mean, if your second novel is worse than your first, you're obviously not putting in enough effort in the second one. So accept that what you're writing is not going to be good. Accept that you're going to be putting placeholders. If you need to name a janitor in your story, you don't stop for 25 minutes to research janitor names. Just call him Sinor Janitor or whatever. Just do whatever, like put placeholders. You can always go back and edit. You can always go back and correct. The idea is not necessarily for speed over quality, but kind of like you want to reach your word goals and be happy with what you wrote. So don't sweat the small stuff, meaning that you don't need to have complete, complex, religious paradigms in your world building done. Just stick to the essentials. You can go enrich those parts later. So, and that's it. Like, I mean, try to have as much fun with it as possible, because going back to my own initial motivations for doing NaNoWriMo, I like doing NaNoWriMo and I like writing because it is fun. Not because I feel any social pressure, not because I have a gun to my head by an editor or by family members or anything like that. I write because I enjoy writing. Even on those moments where I have a challenge to overcome, I never sit down dreading that I have to write. So if you can get in that mindset for NaNoWriMo, 50,000 words are going to fly by.
That's cool. All right. Well, thank you, JF. Thank you, everybody, for watching. This has been Everyday Expertise. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this interview. Be sure to share this video with friends and colleagues who may also enjoy this topic. Let us know your thoughts by leaving a comment below or check the description for our social media. See you next time.